What's up, you guys? General Hawk here as always. We're weekly anime manga reviews, and I'm here with another video. So, I wasn't originally going to upload today. I was actually going to spend my time doing homework, but in college, one thing I realized is that my procrastination levels are pretty freaking high. So instead, we're going to be here talking about a pretty, not necessarily a controversial topic, but something that I am a little bit nervous to talk about, and that is Kaneki and Eto, the ship that a lot of people are fond of, Eto-ken, whatever you want to call it. I am personally a very big fan of the ship, even though it did not come into fruition, and this video is going to be simply me talking about the ship as a whole. Could it have happened during the Tokyo Ghoul story? How would it work? Is it something that is kind of viable? And kind of also like the pros and cons of the ship. So in this video, one thing I do want to say before we start is I'm going to be talking about all the ships in TG, like all the main ones, whether they revolve Kaneki or they don't. And I don't know if I'm going to cover yaoi ones. I'm a little bit scared to talk about that because, you know, a lot of people are like extremely homophobic, but and I don't really want to put my hands in that basket yet. So yeah, I plan on doing Token next. The reason why I decided to do Kaneki and Eto is because I feel like these fans of the ship seem to be a lot more adamant in comparison to Token fans, because Token fans are like, oh yeah, they're there, but it's like they're pretty chill because their ship actually happened, where the Kaneki and Eto fans, it's kind of like they're a little bit kind of scary. So yeah, anyways, let's hop into this video. So Kaneki and Eto, this is a ship that is very prominent in the series. I would actually say that is just as prominent as people shipping Kaneki with Hide or shipping Kaneki with Toka. I would say it's probably the second most prominent ship in the story that the fandom ships together, at least with the main protagonist. So Kaneki and Eto, this is a ship that I think could have easily happened within the story, but I do not think it would have happened in the same exact way as it did Kaneki and Toka, where Kaneki and Toka, they ended up having a kid together, they got married, they had sex, all that stuff, and they ended up having a very happy life. I think Kaneki and Eto, if they did hook up together, it would be most likely more on the lines of a tragic relationship, in my personal opinion, and I'll explain my reasonings why. One thing I do want to bring up, though, is kind of looking from the aspect of if this ship could have happened within the story and why it didn't happen. I feel like a lot of people tend to think that Kaneki cares about Eto way more than what he actually does, because if you look at the story, it's very obvious that Kaneki does not care about Eto that much. Like, obviously, he does respect her as a person. He does care about her to a degree. Like, he does consider her sort of an ally and a mentor figure to him, but it's not to the same degree as people are like, oh yeah, you know, he loves her, like he looks at her the same way he does some of his other friends like Tsukiyama. Like, no, the way how he looks at Eto in comparison to Arima, I'm probably going to make a separate video talking about this once I get to the Eto section of like my character analysis, when I talk about her relationship with Kaneki, but the way how he views Arima and the way how he views Eto is very different. In the case with Arima, he looks at him as a mentor, he looks at him as like his father, and he puts Arima on a very high pedestal. Whereas Eto, it's like, oh, I do respect you quite a bit because you were Takasuki, or you are Takasuki-sen. You wrote a bunch of books that I really do enjoy. You wrote The Black Goat's Egg, but I understand what you're doing, I understand where you're coming from, but it's kind of like I don't really understand you at the same time. Like, I see the bad things about you, I can sympathize with you to a degree, but it's not necessarily that I care about you quite a bit. Because, realistically, Kaneki kind of looked at Eto for a long period of time as an enemy, and then kind of like it was more of a last-minute thing, him kind of looking at her as sort of an ally. It's more like the whole entire One-Eye King thing, when he became the One-Eye King, it was like, oh, well, it's not necessarily I'm doing this because of you and because I feel like, you know, in depth doing it. It's more like you're entrusting your will to me. This goes hand in hand with Arima. I know Arima and you had a plan together. I kind of have to do this, not necessarily because I want to, more like because this is something that's been placed onto me by my father figure and now also upon you. So that's kind of one thing I do want to kind of clear up, I guess. So the reason why I believe Kaneki and Eto's relationship would play very different to Kaneki and Toka is because Eto has brought up multiple times that she's a wild one. This has been stated by other characters in the series, like Tatsura, like freaking Yoshimura, like some investigators, even though they did not know Eto's identity at the time, but like more talking about Owl as a whole, and also Eto herself, she said multiple times that she's wild. I don't think Eto would settle down and have a family with Kaneki and just live peacefully. Like, I believe, even now in the story, assuming that she is indeed still alive, she probably is still living a very wild life. I don't think that she's like, oh yeah, just chilling all the time, being Takasuki said, writing books. She's probably doing other shit, like on the back burner and stuff, like she always been. Also, Eto seems to have a very twisted mentality, and well, she does have a twisted mentality. You see that she has a lot of like. This kind of goes into the whole entire aspect that Eto's not as good as people make her out to be. They really do sugarcoat the things that she does, because she gets a kick out of torture. That's one thing that people tend to forget. She tortured Kane. She clearly enjoyed it. She tortured freaking Takizawa. She clearly freaking enjoyed it. She was aware of Jason torturing Kaneki. Completely fine with it. You even have where during her fight with Kaneki, she was kind of beating him around. She split his head open, and she was enjoying every last minute of it. Like, Eto's not as good of a person as people make her out to be. I don't know why people put her on like this pedestal, like she's like this godly figure who wants the best things out of humanity. No, she's not a bad person. Like, I guess if I had to put her like on the chart, she would be more on the lines of like chaotic neutral, but she's a wild, like, this is becoming an Eto discussion. I don't want to get into that. I'll save that for my other video, because I cannot wait to do that video. Like, I love talking about Eto. There's so much about her. But back to what I was saying before. Eto, she likes to live a very wild life, and because of her really messed up, I guess, personification of love, I feel like that she would probably treat Kaneki in a very similar way. Not necessarily like, oh yeah, we're dating, we're a couple, and we're gonna be together forever. More on the lines of they probably would do it once, because if we're being real, like, Eto kind of is a little bit flirtatious. You see this in the way how she treats Kaneki throughout the story. Now, when she said that she loved Kaneki or liked him a lot back on the tower when Kaneki, like, sliced her in half, did she actually mean it? I don't know. I'm not really sure what she meant when she said that. I don't know if she meant genuinely, like, oh yeah, I actually do love you in, like, a romantic way, or if it was more like I honestly don't know. I really don't, like, to be entirely honest. But back to what I was saying, because of her really messed up personification of love, I feel like that her and Kaneki probably would just do it, like, once, like they clap, let's say after like the events of Coachella or whatever, or Cochlea, whatever you want to call it, the Ghoul prison, after they leave that, they bang, whatever, like chapter 125, except it's like a lot more kinky. And after that, I feel like they would just kind of work together simultaneously as a group, and that's kind of it. Now, another thing that I could also see happening, depending on Eto's plan that she had with Arima, because we don't really know the details of the plan. We don't know. We know that when it came to the plan as a whole, Arima needed to die. He needed to die in order for the One-Eyed King title to be passed on to someone, and have where ghouls follow behind this person and kind of look at him as like the Messiah and the person who can bring change to the world. That's the One-Eyed King title. That's what it's supposed to be. But in the case of Eto, I don't know if her quote-unquote dying was supposed to be part of the plan. Because it seems like that probably wasn't, based off of how surprised she was when Furuta freaking, like, pulls out his Kagane and just, like, decimates her off screen. God, I'm still pissed off about that. But, like, if it was part of the plan, I think it'd be pretty tragic if Kaneki and Eto, like, you don't really see Eto's genuine feelings for him until right in the moment where she feels like, okay, I need to sacrifice myself, and you need to lie, kind of like what happened with, Arima, so you can get the people on the human side to kind of look at you as this messiah and realize, okay, this dude took out the strongest investigator and also took out the strongest ghoul. What does he want? What exactly is he striving for? And then the One-Eyed King can kind of create coexistence and peace in some type of way. Like, I'm not sure if that was part of the plan, because we don't know the full details of it, like I said before. So I think that would be pretty tragic if that actually happened. I don't think it would, though. But, yeah. Now, let's talk about why exactly people like this ship, because personally, this is my favorite ship in the story. Like, non-canon ship, this is probably my favorite one. If we're talking about canon, Akira and Amon, up there. I'm just saying. That's the third video I'm going to do regarding the relationship thing. But, back to what I was saying. I think the main reason why people really did like the concept of Kaneki and Eto was because when it comes to the aspect of Kaneki having a kid in general, that was definitely something that we didn't know about. Because based off of the way how Itori explained it, it almost seemed like that half-ghouls as a whole, because of how rare they were, it almost seemed like that they were unable to breed with either humans or ghouls, due to the fact that if they breed with a human, there's a high chance that the person wouldn't even get pregnant. Two, the human's body wouldn't even be able to provide the same supplements that a ghoul body could when it comes to having the kid. So eventually the kid would just end up, not living because the human isn't eating ghoul food, as in other humans or other ghouls. It wouldn't be able to provide the RC count that it needs. And then in the case with ghouls, it's like, okay, even if you do have a kid with this person, get them pregnant, it's possible that the woman might end up absorbing the child because of the RC cells, like her lacking RC cells. And that was like one of the main reasons why it was a really big deal when Toka got pregnant with Pichon. Because you have where like Toka during this entire time, like she's taking suppressants, she's eating normal human food in order to suppress her RC cells so she won't, absorb her child. So like Kaneki ended up with Eto, the only other ghoul in the series who happens to be a natural half ghoul that we know of, was kind of a special thing. And it's like, okay, they're around the same age. I believe Eto's older by about like 2 or 3 years, because I believe Takasuki-sen is 26 years old, and Heize by the time before like the final chapter was about 23 or 24 years old. So I assume like they're like very close, they're relative to each other in age. Kaneki, like Eto has a very high interest in Kaneki, obviously. She's had a high interest in him since the, midway through part 1, since she's, after the events of Kaneki, like, beating the crap out of Ayato and killing Jason, she's been interested in him. You even have where, like, she's kind of indirectly asking questions about him when she meets up with Hinami, like, back in part 1 as well. And you even have where Kaneki has an interest in her due to the fact that she's Takasuki-sen. So it's kind of like, the fact that they're both half-ghouls, they can understand where they both came from, the fact that they don't really belong in either one of the worlds, and they can also fit in both sides of the world. It almost seems like a match made in heaven, but unfortunately it didn't happen. I think if the story did go that way, it would be very interesting, but one of the things that I do want to bring up, though, and I was talking to my friend about this earlier today, and I remember he also commented this on my video when I made this topic a long time ago. Is it like, I want people to genuinely think about this, alright? Because I'm pretty sure everyone here has seen Tokyo Ghoul, obviously, and is aware of the way how, like how special Toka is to Kaneki, and the way how she makes him feel, and the way how she kind of causes him to change his view about the entire world. Do you guys genuinely believe that Eto could make Kaneki happy the same exact way that Toka could? I'm curious. I'm not going to say that I don't think, like, I'll give my own opinions on it, I guess. And this isn't fact. This is just my speculation, my thoughts on this. You guys can prove up other points. And if you can, please comment down below, like, how. And also, if you don't think so, also comment down below. This is more of a group discussion type thing. Because Kaneki looks at Toka as this person who caused him to look at the ghoul world very differently than what he originally did. He originally saw ghouls as only monsters, and because of the hands of Toka and the fact that she a lot of times acted very soft towards him and showed a different side to herself that she didn't show anyone else, it made Kaneki kind of look at the world very differently. And you even have where Kaneki throughout the story always brings up the fact that about Toka, like, being beautiful, and how much he loves her and how much he cares about her. I wonder if, because of how messed up Eto kind of is, could Eto bring Kaneki that same exact feeling? Because I've always kind of thought that if they did hook up, Eto would bring out a different side in Kaneki, a more, kind of like more on the lines of still like the Black Reaper persona, where he's very cruel, still very brutal, but, or not necessarily, okay, not brutal. It would be a more colder version of like the One-Eyed King personality ended up being. That's how I kind of always saw it, if they did end up hooking up. Whereas Toka brings out the best sides of Kaneki. I feel like Eto might bring out the worst, just because she would probably want him to bring out more negative emotions in order to get stronger. Like, that's my thoughts. I think they'd still be decently happy together, but I don't think it would be the same degree as Kaneki is like at the end of the freaking series. But that's my opinion. So comment down below your thoughts on this whole entire topic. Do you guys like Etoken? What's your thoughts on it? Do you think it would have even worked? How do you think it would have ended up? Do you think they would have even like been like married, or do you think they would have just like clapped? Like, like just give me your guys' thoughts on all that. So, anyways, thanks for watching. Comment, subscribe as always. I love you all. Jalen Hawk signing out. Bye, guys.